inventor, first in flight, well, I guess his aircraft, the first in flight of self-sustaining ionic wind aircraft. So if you want to maybe elaborate or correct me on some of the terms I use, and then I guess a very general high-level overview, what is an ionic wind aircraft? And
all right, sure. Yeah. Well, the ion thrusters have been around for a long time. There's a type of a rocket. And the thing is, they would produce a very small amount of thrust, and it was thousands of times less than the vehicle weighs. So you get this tiny bit of thrust, about like the weight of a couple pieces of paper pressing against something, to move something that is heavy like a small car. Yep. So no one could imagine them working here on Earth. They were used in outer space. And then more recently, since in the 50s and 60s, people came up with a way to get enough thrust to fly a small model around of ion propelled vehicle. But it required a large, heavy power supply that wasn't on the craft. It was just a small toy. So, and those were called lifters, ionic lifters. And there are a lot of those on the internet.
Yeah, and I was just looking here on my computer to see if I could quickly find one that stood out to me when I originally came across your work, now maybe dating back to 2019, maybe even earlier. And I think in 2016, I think MIT had published their first video about creating an ionic wind aircraft where it's designed more like an airplane, and it was launched, right? So it wasn't, starting off from, zero propulsion, right? But then it was able to sustain flight across the gym, which if you look at the flight that they had, it was longer in distance and duration than the Wright brothers' first flight. And, being MIT, they, of course, want to take credit for being the first, self-sustaining ionic wind aircraft. But not only have you been working on it way sooner than MIT, you also have videos that have been public that actually beat MIT to the punch in having this first self-sustaining ionic wind aircraft. So can you kind of rewind a little bit? And
sure.
How did this idea come about, and when did it come about?
Okay.
For you, right?
All right. Well, in the 90s, I was working on little small jet engines, auxiliary power units especially. And I asked the boss, I said, how fast do these spin, these little jet engines? He said, about 40,000 RPM. That's about it. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool, if you could make an electronic jet engine? Then you could just, you could just turn it up to speed, as much as you wanted, right? So I had this idea to make a bunch of magnets and coils of magnets, a series of coils. And if you could ionize the air and make it a little bit susceptible to magnetism, then you could just have like a Christmas tree circuit and, flash the magnets, switch them on in sequence, right? And it would accelerate the air through this tube. So I tried to do that, and the idea didn't work too well. And then my younger brother is a chemist, a PhD chemist at Brandeis University. And he said, well, it would take quite a bit of energy to ionize the air, but you could do it, right? And so anyway, then I found this Seversky Ionocraft online from 1964. And it was a big device made of aluminum foil and wires. And it would float into the air with a huge external power supply, these big heavy boxes powering it. That they went to the too thin wires go to the craft, and that was what makes it, where it gets its energy from. So then I tried to copy that patent, and it didn't. At first it wouldn't fly, and I wasn't even sure if it was real. Right. And then I found, well, yes, you can blow air with high voltage. You can ionize air. I found the Ionic Breeze air cleaning device. It was real popular in the 90s and maybe early 2000s. And I actually have one of those in the other room, And so then I started making different types of devices. I didn't show you yet I made these little triangles that are with round holes in them. It's a flat triangle of foil with a frame, and it has little round holes and wires that hang over the holes. And I connected that to a high voltage power supply, and it when I got everything just right, it floated up near the ceiling on these tether wire, power wires. So it was very exciting, and that was in the year 2000 or sometime about then.